Yeah, well, actually, Tallyfor is a SaaS startup. We're building automation for tax.
All right, let's go.
Yep, let's go. All right.
By the
Find
way,
it every
I
time.
played my wife our ads, and she thought your voice was sexy. I was like, yeah, you have a beautiful voice, a beautiful face and voice for a podcast.
For a podcast. A lot of people like the Tallyfor ad the best.
Are we recording?
Scott asked me to do a W9 today, and I said no. Now he's mad at me. It's okay.
He didn't say no. He actually said, do you know how to do a W9 instead of saying, oh, I'll get to it in a couple hours.
I like the backhanded.
Scott thinks he's my boss. I'm his boss. That's what he doesn't know.
I enjoy the banter between you two. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes our match special. We secretly love and hate each other.
What I have realized, though, is I can't be my own boss because I am very irresponsible. All right. Hello and welcome. We are the Sons of CPAs. Join us as we question the current state of the accounting and tax industry with the next generation of professionals leading this space. We are the change agents in an industry fraught with money and inertia. Let's begin the Sons of CPAs with your hosts, Jason Ackerman and Scott Scareno.
And special guests, longtime friend, Peter Wen of Tallyfor. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Jason. And
this is award-winning Tallyfor.
Oh, award-winning, legitimately. Okay.
I'm just so glad he was able to pronounce your last name.
Yeah, very simple name, and from now on we're just having guests with like 3-letter last names.
From this point forward,
Peter's like a nice name. It's easy. I love that.
No, I'm just happy to be here. I think you guys are doing a great podcast. The lineup is great. The topics are awesome. I love the informality. I'll try not to do too many F-bombs.
Oh, F-bombs are encouraged.
Absolutely.
So some people do care about that, but honestly, I care about the guest, right? You shouldn't curse just for the sake of cursing.
Now, remind me, where were you before Xero?
So I was at a company here in San Francisco, Clemco. They were a family-owned business. I was the accounting manager, controller.
Because you started in accounting.
Yes, I am a former CPA. I'm not active anymore.
You're smart. You got out. All right, let's go. So what I remember from you from our X-Pact when you were at Xero is you would come in and you'd have like an awesome biker jacket on and you looked super cool.
Thank you for that. That's a good memory. Yeah, I used to ride a motorcycle, but during the pandemic, I decided not to risk getting put in the hospital ever. So I kind of put it in the garage for a while.
Yeah. Well, now you're a business owner. So like if you die, it's bad. So you started in accounting. Tell us how you got started. Now you own a accounting software business, but how did you get started in the accounting field?
Yeah, I can talk about how I came to accounting. I actually came to accounting later in my career. I was actually in grad school for Japanese history. And I moved to San Francisco. I left grad school and I moved to San Francisco. I got a job in a nonprofit, ended up doing accounting. And one of my accounting professors, what he told me at that time really stuck with me. And he said, accounting is a great career. If you're ambitious and you want to be a CFO, controller, it's going to be a skill that's really useful. And he said also, but if you want just to have a steady job and always be employed and, get paid well, he said it's also great for that. So that's kind of what roped me in. I said, oh yeah, that's really flexible. So
are you saying that Japanese history was not going to pay well?
Yeah, there are many differences between
I think it's a pretty big disparity, though. I can't not talk about that. I think that's awesome. First, that you were going to school for Japanese history. That's like me going for American history, right?
Yeah.
More or less.
Don't get me too now, Scott.
I don't think how's that me too? That is nothing even close to it. I'm being real, right? That would be like me going to school for Italian and Jewish history, right? I guess the relatively speaking. Oh, by the way, before we even start, relayfi.com/sons of CPAs. We have a URL.
Sponsor alert.
Sponsor alert. Who's our sponsor this week, Ackerman?
Relay. Or is it Relay?
Jesus Christ. Here we go.
It's Relay, people. Most of the things I say are a joke.
No, I tend to understand it. I just don't like the joke, so that's why I act like I
Yeah,
didn't get it. It
that's
was
my
terrible.
wife.
We're going to talk about our own use of Relay Financial. The Sons of CPAs powered by Relay. Our bank account is with Relay, and it's been going smashingly well so far. What have we done on our bank account?
We've reimbursed ourselves, so we've done distributions. We're
Reimbursed ourselves for equipment.
Because when you take a reimbursement, that's an expense. We can deduct that.
We're not teaching accounting here. You said you don't even know how I did accounting. I know how to.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. Relay is so easy to set up. I was skeptical. I have to admit, I was skeptical. I was like, I don't think we could set up a bank account this fast. And Relay, we set it up in like 20 minutes.
It really did take less than a week. 10 minutes to fill everything out. And then just verifying that we're a real company. And then it was set up effortless. Connected with Xero, couple steps there. So you, listeners, as their advisor, get bank feeds that don't break. And they sync directly into QuickBooks Online or Xero. From my experience, it's a direct feed, and it is a strong feed. They got a pretty strong grip on there. You'll also get detailed transaction data, so you won't have to use Google to decode the transactions. Relay even embeds check images. That's a big one too. Check images. I don't like pulling checks.
Plus, you don't have to share passwords and two-factor authentication codes with Relay. Safely log into client banking with your own login. That's a huge thing. You have one login for all your clients. It's like your Gusto login or your Xero login. It's one login. And you see all your clients.
Safe value add right there, because that saves you some time, and it's also safe.
And if everyone was on Relay, it would make it so much easier. We sell the shit out of this ad. You're welcome, Relay.
Well, no. I mean, let's be fair. To the listener out there, are you fast forwarding? Did you fast forward through this? And are you even listening?
We're making it impossible for you to fast forward because it's so long.
You got anything to say? Closing arguments here?
I like Relay. We're going to use it more. You guys should too.
I got a little high since we started reading. And I kind of forgot where we were at. So I think you should just visit relayfi.com/sons of CPAs. That's sons with an S. CPAs. There's 3 S's in there. You can't get it wrong. Sons of CPAs.
Please use the code, people.
So,
sure.
But I guess tell us a little bit. I want you to go a little bit deeper into why Japanese history, or why history, and then do you still do things relative to history?
Well, I think knowing where we are coming from the past is really important for going to the future. And in some ways, accounting is a past-oriented field, right? It's what did I do in the past? How do I record it? And finance, the cousin of money, I guess, is looking towards the future. So I have this saying: I look to the past to learn, and I look to the future to earn. So.
Oh, I love that.
Oh man, I can't even keep up. I'm writing this down. I love it.
That's an account. That should be like BNA's motto.
That's from a yoga teacher. They do the Warrior 2. That's what indicates your arm pointing to the back is the past, and your arm pointing to the front is the future. So that is from the wisdom of yoga.
This is awesome, because we do talk a lot about like that forward-facing and backward-facing, the way we are as accountants. I think a lot of us want to be more forward-facing, but we can't help but always be looking behind, looking in the rear view of everything that's already happened. So
yeah, I think it's 2 different mindsets and 2 different brains, to be honest. Having the ability to record what's there in certain ways, but also to imagine, right? To imagine the future, to imagine change, project the future. Everyone can do it, but I think people have different proclivities to choose one or the other. But I think it's important to do both in a business.
Bridging the gap. I love it. That's a good way to start.
So
that's it for mine. I'm the Andy Richter today.
He's got his one question in. So you're working in an accounting firm. How'd you decide that you wanted to kind of switch and go work for a software company?
Well, yeah, I got my CPA. I finally got my CPA by going to Berkeley Extension. Took a couple years, passed the exams and all that. And the story of how I got to Xero is really interesting. I was helping out. This was 2010, I think, or 11. Is that right? Geez, a decade ago. And one of my friends he had a startup, and he's like, "Hey, can you do the bookkeeping for me?" And I was at this job, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "Oh, wait, hold on, send me that file. Wait, hold on, I can't do this." So I did research on online accounting, and of course, QuickBooks Online was there, and Xero was there. Xero was there on the internet, and I'm like, "Oh, they're not here in the U.S. yet, or they had a lot of, and they were a starting company." So I kind of put that in the back of my mind. But then my brother invited me to a hackathon. And I don't know, you all familiar with what a hackathon is?
I was thinking hacky sack, somewhat marathon.
I have a hacky sack.
God, he's prepared for everything, Peter.
He is prepared for
everything. A Tallyfor hacky sack. Let's go.
I love it.
That better be in the mail to both of us.
That is the hackathon right there.
Yes, I will not show it.
That's a good present. That's like everyone gives away socks and stuff. Hacky sacks, baby.
Yes, we are all into the cool gear.
Okay, so now
a hackathon is where a bunch of engineers and designers, they kind of all go to a hosted event, and then they code away. I call it the fight club of the day, because that's where all the talent is. That's where you get jobs. That's where young kids want to prove themselves. An idea can be born out of a hackathon. So I was invited to a hackathon with my brother. My brother's an MIT grad.
Do you know how to code?
Oh yeah, sure. Tallyfor's front end was coded by me partially.
So you were there to hack.
I've always known a little bit of programming, not enough to really do anything. But again, it's a social event. It's really to learn what's going on in the tech world.
Okay.
No, I just went because my brother thought it'd be fun.
Did he participate, or did you guys just watch?
Oh, I didn't participate. Ben might have participated.
Okay.
I think it's AT&T Hackathon, if I recall correctly. I think Stack Mob ran it, if I remember. Anyhow, I met there a New Zealander, and you're introducing yourself. What do you do? I'm an accountant. He's like, "Oh, did you know Xero's here in the U.S.?" And I was like, "No, hold on, great, let me check it out. Oh, they're hiring for jobs." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna apply right now." So that's really how I.
But
I knew Xero because I was researching online accounting.
But did you know you wanted to make the move from an accounting focused role to a tech focused role at that time?
Oh yeah, once I saw that they were hiring, I jumped on it.
I mean, it's a blend though. It's accounting and tech. That's ideal for somebody who's attending a hackathon. So.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. That was way back in 2012. They were at the Kiwi incubator in the Mission, south of the market.
Yeah, that's cool. And that wasn't at that time. It was like Gusto was starting at the same time. What other companies were there in that incubator?
I don't recall who was in that one. Yeah, Zen Payroll, they were called back before Gusto.
That's when we started with them, when it was when it was Zen.
Yeah, and then there was the you're going to be a blast from the past. There was the first gala. Oh, did you go to the gala? There was a gala. It was like before the XeroCons. It was like a private gala. It was a tuxedo only kind of thing.
So I saw some pictures.
No, I wasn't invited for that.
I think Eileen showed us some pictures in Vegas. Yeah. Some old OG stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the regatta. It was at the same time, so it was fun.
And so you started at Xero. Basically, they were right in the door in the U.S. So what were like the things that you were focused on back then at Xero?
Yeah, I mean, it was building out. So mostly because I was a CPA and I knew in general product. I didn't know how to build a product. I learned a lot of that from Ian. I know you had him on the show, so shout out to Ian.
Ian Vason.
Yeah, Ian really kind of took me under his wing, and I learned a lot from him. The early days of startup, you do whatever needs to be done. So I had the expertise in building out a sales tax calculator. All the U.S. required features started to be spec'd out in those early years, as well as marketing, market fit, product market fit, some strategic stuff. What is the competition doing? Yeah, general overall spearheading coming into the US.
So what's one of the biggest things you learned at Xero that you took into Tallyfor?
Well, I learned a lot. It's hard to pin one thing down. Just watching a company grow that fast and being part of it, that's fun and challenging. Yeah, there was a great early team there, and the energy is great. And it's about really having a good team. You really can't, you can do lots of stuff by yourself or one or two people. The real richness comes when you can coordinate a bigger team and shoot for something higher and achieve those goals and grow something and change you say change agents, right? You guys are change agents. What does that really mean? I mean, I'll turn around to you guys. What do you think changed?
Oh, wow, we're getting interviewed.
No, I like it. This is good question.
Scott's been waiting for someone to ask our question for 6 months. This is amazing.
I'm not even that excited about it. I think that we have to kind of bring forward the change, right? We have to embody what that change. Oh shit, I don't even know how to answer this question now that you're asking it. I'm stumbling over my words. Let me back up and say, like, Xero was part of that change, and a lot of what we do it differently than it's always been done. And a lot of people are very backwards facing, like you said, and they want to rely on the past. This is how we've always done it. This is how we've always done things. And when you want to do something differently because you want to make it easier, you want to make it better, you get a lot of pushback. So you need people to champion that. And those are like the change agents in the industry, in an organization. So we've always been the middle of that. We've been Xero. Both of us have been early Xero adopters. You were at Xero early on, and you made a point to go to that company. You did your research, right? Like, this is, we're part of an industry that doesn't want to see change, and we've been in the middle of like a decade-long change process, and it's not even halfway there, not even like a quarter of the way there. Yeah, we do want to just be part of helping push that change along and change people's mindsets.
Yeah, and I think the agent part's important, at least, right? There have to be those individuals that kind of seed it or drive it. Not everyone. Changes come at different rates, different times, right? It's not consistent. Jason, I'm curious, what do you think?
It's exhausting sometimes too. God, it really is. Like, my mind's already been changed, and now I have to go backwards sometimes. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of different things.
There's regressions for sure.
A lot of regressions. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the hardest thing is, like you said, getting everyone to change and getting your whole team to change. And how do you get adoption for something that is good, but how do you get everyone else to buy into that? I think that's the hardest thing in our whole industry, because people don't want to change. Change is hard, and in our day and age, everything's changing so fast. It's hard to know if you're making the right change.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, change for change's sake is not what we're looking for. When I think of change, if you look at the rest of technology, right, other things that have changed in other fields, other professions, and you look at accounting, and it's a little more conservative. Accounting is a little bit slower.
It's very slow. I mean, what other industries are slower than us? Lawyers? That's probably the only one.
Yeah, maybe lawyers and insurance. Yeah, even right.
The government? I mean, come on. The IRS is part of our industry.
Yeah, that's not a.
Well, I think tax is slower than accounting if we were to distinguish tax and accounting.
Oh, for sure. Tax is very slow.
Yeah,
but
we still don't have a cloud
because
product.
We know that we get very complacent because the IRS is not going to change, and I think that's a big part of it.
But it's not so much the IRS. It's the tax is so complex that it really takes a big player to come in and do it right. And many have tried, and many have failed. And the players now just have no reason to change quickly. at the time. I'd be interested from your perspective, Peter, like when do you think we're going to get a really good cloud tax product?
Maybe Tallyfor is building.
Well, there are definitely many challenges, and it takes a lot of capital and expertise and risk. It's hard. I think what you point to, the complexity of the completeness of the tax code, is definitely a massive hurdle. And the state complexity also adds a little twist in everything. So it's not an easy lift. That said, I don't think it's impossible. And I actually think the reason we started Tallyfor is because we see a wide open field, and we see tax holding back a lot of things. E-commerce, getting carpal tunnel today is you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be sitting typing numbers from one system to another, or even moving it from Excel in system, out system. The errors, the frustration, there's better things to do as a human than that. It's unavoidable that a cloud product will come one day. And Tallyfor, we're starting the beginnings of what it looks like, but we'll see how much funding we need.
So before we get to Tallyfor, I don't want to leave Xero real quick. So you were there at the very beginning. What do you think was the biggest mistake that was made in the time you were there?
Well, I don't, I think there are challenges in growing the business and going into the accounting industry. So I think they've done really well globally as a company, and they changed the mindset of accounting in the US. And tell me if you think differently, but if you think pre-Xero days, right? Pre-Xero days and post-Xero days, Xero made it fun to be an accountant. XeroCon was a blast, it wasn't a regular Vegas kind of conference. It brought some funness to it, the brand. That's all very important. So I think that challenge was done very well. And Tallyfor, we want to actually do that for the tax people as well.
So tell me what was the impetus to leave Xero and start Tallyfor?
Yeah. Well, I was there 6 years, I think 5.5. And, that's a long time for kind of a tech world. And I started Tallyfor with my brother. My brother's a co-founder. He's the CTO and kind of the brains behind the tech of it. We just saw this opportunity to work together. And really, as I mentioned earlier, it really is a wide open field, meaning for some reason, no one's really wanted to touch it. I think, Jason, you mentioned people tried and maybe didn't get as far as they wanted to in building a tax product. And then we have to ask ourselves, well, why is that? Is it because of the complexity? Did they misstep? Did they misguide themselves? But when we look at the field, meaning everyone has to do a tax return, business, small, it touches everyone's lives. So why isn't it in the cloud? Why is it still in these literally 20 or 30-year-old systems? That's harming everyone. The economy, you can make that argument, right? The economy is harming professionals when they have to go into the office instead of spend time at home with their families. They could work at home. So we see the opportunity there, and we just decided to go for it.
So Tallyfor is a bridge product. So it bridges the accounting system and the tax products. So it sounds like you have, well, we can get to that later. Why did you start with the bridge product?
Well,
he's getting off the rails already.
No,
Can't even get his question out. He needs me to interrupt you.
I need Scott.
Scott, I'm
Help me, Scott.
surprised you're so quiet on this.
I'm doing my best. I really am. I'm trying to hold back.
It is a bridge product in that it sits in the middle, but I call the trial balance the heart of accounting. So that's your major ledger, right? It's before, it's actually the easiest entryway into everything. It's the summarized, cleaned up data of all the ledgers, but it's not the detail. You can always go back up into the detail, but it's actually that core thing that sits between book and tax. And that's what I think that product has not been built or not even thought about, right? It was an afterthought. A trial balance is typically a little hole into the product, a way to get data into a product, but it's actually the core of it. If you do it right, and we've designed it a new way, we almost make it like a fun game where you can actually move accounts. It's the core of accounting, the trial balance. So that's the way I view where we've started.
Are we going to hear about the marbles?
Well,
that's a game, right?
So, most of the time spent on a tax return, at least in our office, is like getting the trial balance, like making sure the books are correct and everything's right, checking all the balances. And then that's the hardest part. And then getting it to the tax return, that should hypothetically be easy, right? Because you've done all the work, you have the trial balance, it should go in the tax return. Now, you got to do some states and some other things inside the tax return, but getting the trial balance is very key. And there's so many, I can't believe how many other accounting firms hand type in their trial balance. Why do you think people are still doing it? Because they don't know, it's been hard in the past?
Well, I think there's a couple reasons. One is people like, Excel is such a powerful and flexible tool. You can do everything in Excel, and that's great. I love Excel. I consider myself an Excel jockey. And maybe you're doing that mappings, right, in Excel, but it doesn't scale past 2-3 people, especially if you start doing something weird like a macro or even a VLOOKUP. It's not meant for that, right? There's still reliance on some of that in-between system thing. But we at Tallyfor, we view it as a data problem, right? It's a data problem. And now the world is coming in from many data sources. A transaction, a financial transaction is almost always starting digital, right? Why does it need to go out of this system onto a desktop, onto Excel? It should flow like, Scott, as I said, the analogy we have is like marbles down a hill, down a chute. It should flow from the transactions onto the returns, or maybe it's like a little pachinko thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can set those pipes up individually per your client, and then it all flows. That's what Tallyfor is building, and that's what some of our early customers, they're seeing that 2-minute return.
That's just a huge part of this change management is staying in the cloud, getting in the cloud and staying there. It almost seems like in a perfect world, we would have always been using Tallyfor because they would have figured that out on the front end. And then it took you leaving Xero to put something together because Xero couldn't figure it out. I remember we spent 2 years, full years on Xero XPack, just explaining to them what book to tax even meant. Like they didn't fully grasp it.
The hard part is the integration with the tax software. And that's what you guys figured out, which I couldn't believe because CCH is like very difficult their API is not the best. So like that was always what we were saying. Xero, it's like you can do whatever you want in Xero, but if it's just exporting to Excel, like that's not helping us get it to the tax return. You have to build the integration with the tax softwares because ideally you want a one-click from the accounting software to the tax return with no errors.
Yes, and that's what Tallyfor does, right? And Scott, Jason, sounds like you have some processes in place that you get there. I want everyone to get there, right? It's like a fingerprint. I call it the fingerprint, your tax fingerprint of your data fingerprint. This is how the data flows through your system, your client systems, and they should be, it's like a Zap. I don't want to call it Zap, right?
That's what I called it.
Yeah, connecting those pipes, right? Those straws, or whatever you want to call it, and then maybe some water leaks out. You got to check it. That's what that accounts for, right? It's all data. It shouldn't go to a PDF and scanned, and then you have to cut pages out. So you don't want to pay how many pages you're going to scan. Those are all antiquated processes. But I think once you have to take out the steps, certain steps are more antiquated, but you shouldn't rely on them. You shouldn't let them live longer. You should try to create the change such that those steps are taken out.
So when you're talking with these accounting firms, what's like their biggest hesitation from going to a Tallyfor product?
Well, we've had really great, they love us. I mean, it's some of those quotes I have is like, I'm looking forward to tax season is one of them.
Well, they're lying to you, but that's fine.
Yeah, I know.
No, I mean, there's a certain because if you have a tax season every year and it's the same every year, you're dealing with the same things, and now you're excited about something new, I'd be looking forward to it too. If I even knew what tax season was these days, it's more elusive.
Maybe I'll start doing taxes again. That's another quote. If I can save you 3 hours of return across your team and per return, that's going to unlock so much time and freedom, and you're just happier.
Yeah.
I think it's finding us we're really new. We're just kind of starting. So I think finding us, and then when they see the demo, they're like, wow, okay, try it. And then it's more of the basic stuff. How do I roll it out to my team? What are the small things that I need to know to get things set up and started? We offer free training, Tallyfor Academy, to onboard teams. And then they have to go through the process of evaluating where it fits in their flow, in their tech stack, and then picking it up. This is the selling season for us, November, December, and early next year. They love the product, they get it, and they just are finding ways to kind of put it in their flows.
Yeah, to go back to your change agent question, I think a reason why it's harder in the accounting industry to change is, the decision makers, the partners, they are so far away from doing the actual work. The actual change agents are people who are way down the ladder, and they know they need a Tallyfor or a Xero or whatever, but the partners way above don't care or see it that way or understand the process for it to work. I see that a lot with other CPA firms, especially the larger you get. So like, why do I, or they meet with you at Tallyfor and they're like, this is great, but then they don't
know where to start.
Yeah, or they don't. Yeah, exactly. So that is a huge problem. I think that's why you see a lot of smaller firms like Scott and I's firm adopting these type of technologies faster. Just weird. We see the value in it because we're still doing, like, we're closer to the work than a lot of partners.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've seen. Tallyfor, as the top sales guy at Tallyfor, at Xero, we saw that as well. The complexity of the change, you don't want to rock the boat if there's X amount of things going on. But that's why it's important to show, as a tech company, to show your technology to everyone and to articulate it for everyone. What can it do for person A, person B, and person C, wherever they are in their organization? I'm very confident that Tallyfor saves them a ton of time, and we're designing some of the features that a mid-sized firm would want, a large-sized firm, and they are a little bit different, right, across the spectrum. It is obviously easier if you're by yourself to make a purchase and change, or 2 people, 5 people. So change agent will come small, maybe. Maybe that's the way it should be.
So you're starting with the trial balance software. Are there grand plans for Tallyfor?
Yes, there are, of course. Would you like to help plan the plan?
I guess, where do you see Tallyfor in 5 years?
Yeah, we think we're going to automate tax. That's our goal, is to automate tax. Because again, as I said, it's data. So you can imagine, where would you want to automate tax? And that's where we'll go.
I love that you're saying that on this podcast, because Ackerman always says tax will never be automated. So please, I beg to differ. We have a guest here that's saying it will be automated. So Mr. Ackerman, tell him why tax will never be automated, why he will never succeed.
It will never be automated. You still, until you can get every single state.
I think Peter can do whatever a human can do, and he can get his program to do that.
Well, what, like, even with Tallyfor now, it gets into the tax software. There's still stuff you have to do in the tax software. There's partner allocations. There's different state allocations that you have to do, and a corporate return is less complex than an individual return, with lots more different options that you have. So yeah, I'd love to see that. I'm not against it. I just, we've got a long way from go from 99% of people type in to the tax return, the trial balance, to I can press a button from Xero and the entire tax return is done perfectly.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's going to be easy or it's going to be, 5 years maybe, right? As a product guy, I never give timelines. But
That's smart.
you know,
That's all we want to know as accountants, the timeline too.
Yeah.
Where are we on that roadmap, baby?
You got deadlines, yeah. Deadlines. Being close to a return and understanding it. I do think the skepticism is healthy. But again, if I were to say, hey, look, if you look in from the outside, what are the more complex problems that have been solved by computers? I mean, I don't think it's that hard. In many ways, it's actually very easy because the IRS is the specification. It is specified already. Everything is known. Please, are you telling me that's an easy problem? Because the variability, it's rules based. So the variability, it's not like sending something to shoot down an asteroid to get the mineral.
No, I think it can be done. I think it's just the time. Someone's got to invest, because it's not, the IRS is the easy part. You got 20,000 jurisdictions, and nobody's wanted to spend the time and money to worry about that except Intuit there and the other players that have already done it. So it's just a large barrier.
Already done what? What has Intuit done?
Intuit has a cloud tax product.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's not forget TurboTax is a cloud tax product, and it's used.
And they have Intuit Tax Online, which they're putting a lot of money in. I think that's kind of the answer to who's going to get there first and actually be good. I think it's Intuit Tax Online, but like it still requires a lot of, at this time, verification, especially with the states. Like the IRS part's pretty easy. Now, it definitely can be done. Like you said, it is all formula. If my stupid brain can do it, a computer can definitely do it. For sure. I just think the problem with people have just kind of given up on, they're like, yeah, the tax returns, TurboTax is taken over. Like TurboTax does a great job at the tax return, but it's what you put into TurboTax, and you still.
What does that mean, Jason? To interrupt, what does that mean to you as a CPA and Scott as an EA? What does that mean if you're giving up to TurboTax? What's that mean to your?
Well, I don't think I think we've given up the returns we shouldn't be doing, which is the super easy returns. Right. But there's lots and lots of complex returns that TurboTax. That you as a non-CPA shouldn't be doing. TurboTax, if you know how to use TurboTax, can get the job done all the time. But you as a non-CPA trying to do a very complex return on TurboTax almost never works out, because there's just a lot of variables that you have to guess, and you're not a professional.
I don't know if that addresses the question though. Like, what does it mean to say that a lot of the customer base that used to exist 10 years ago doesn't exist anymore? A large majority of those returns that just rolling in, like people that are W-2 employees.
I don't think the CPA firm has lost those customers. I think for the most part, the CPA industry has kept the same customers. It's especially older people aren't going to do TurboTax. Mostly the younger people that never went to a CPA are going there. And then when they get to a certain level where they need help, that's when they come to a CPA. And that's kind of what you want. You want TurboTax to do the easy part, the easy returns for $100. But I think a lot of CPA firms just gotten rid of. They just don't mess with individual returns anymore. Scott doesn't mess with individual returns anymore. For us, we can still make a lot of money.
Don't get me started. I got some issues today that came up about individual returns that I'm just throwing that whole package out.
But that's where, that's where the complexity, where the real advice and the high level, like if you look at where you make lots of money, it's advising on tax and doing very, very complex returns. The accounting part is much easier to automate than the super high level tax advice, I think.
Well, we're in the middle. Like, so the conversation that came up yesterday, my dad's software platform doesn't do bank feeds. And I said, the only users that are probably still actually actively using it are people that don't even know they exist. If you know a bank feeds exists, you should be on a GL that has that. And that's what automated a lot of what we did. So if you ask this question to a lot of accountants who made their money charging, or a lot of bookkeepers who made their money keying in transactions from different places, they probably said that'll never be done. You know, when it was obvious that that's something that just rolls from one system to another. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there is an easier way to correlate that, what Ackerman's trying to think of in his head now. Like, once that happens, you will probably still be doing all your returns and your whole team will, but then there'll be other places that's automated and people are just advising on tax. And that's kind of what we're doing with accounting and finance. You know, it's like we have so much more time now that we can spend adding different value to the client. Maybe not the same, different.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, for that. That's where we see, Tallyfor sees it going. That's what we want to build. We want to build a platform for the professionals to serve those, serve those customers of yours. The more complex ones, maybe it flows through to the individual. You do the individuals in conjunction with their business. But that's where we want to kind of surface. I don't want to say platform, but a place where CPAs, EAs, tax professionals, they can have a place where they can serve those clients. Just very similar to what Xero did on the book side, the accounting side. We hear that need clearly, and that's what we're building.
I love it.
I think it's a potential future.
So what's
the
it like?
The historian is telling us the future.
I looked
from the past.
So this is Sons of CPAs, but you're working with your brother.
Yes.
So what's it like working with your brother?
Bros of CPAs.
God, I feel like I'm working with my brother half the time with this guy.
You guys are like brothers. I love working with my brother. He's very talented across the board. And he was also in venture capital. He was at many startups, a few startups that had some good exits, enterprise grade security products. And I had to bend his arm to teach him how to spell tax. But it's a joy. He has so many skills, and it's just super fun building a cool product.
So do you guys
tell us the biggest fight? Yeah, tell us the biggest fight you've got in over Tallyfor.
Oh, it's about debits and credits.
No way.
He calls it second grade math, like normal math, right? Debits and credits. Flipping the sign for some of them and not the others is like, it's not the way you normally think of math. So we had many times like, no. And he's thinking of it in an engineering standpoint. And I'm like, no, this way. He's like, it's easy. I'm like, you've been studying accounting for.
You both could be having very logical arguments. It's kind of like our first episode where I'm arguing with Ackerman about 2 + 2 = 5, and he couldn't bang his head against the wall to even see what I meant there, and he probably still doesn't.
I honestly don't understand half of what you say, but I will one day. One day I'm going to see the wiseness, the wisdom.
And I'll be long gone.
It'll be a few years from now.
Yeah. So
how'd you guys meet?
We were on a bus for some VIP thing. I don't know why they let Scott. He probably got invited. He probably just invited himself on the bus.
Which one was it?
I invite myself everywhere.
In Austin.
This is nothing new. Yeah, I think it was in Austin.
Are y'all excited for Xerocon New Orleans?
I kind of am, but I'm also like, it's a little far away. My head's not there yet.
Yeah, we got to get.
It's a little awkward to not have one for a year and then go back to that mindset.
Like 2 years.
2 years, yeah, that's crazy.
I think it's going to be bonkers.
I hope so.
Is Tallyfor going to have a little booth there?
Yeah, we're looking into it. Nothing is determined yet, but we are going to have our own. Maybe I should break the news here.
Yeah.
Break the news, baby. Let's go. It's like NPR.
It might be early to break this, but we're not going to call it con because everyone had a con. We're going to have the Tally Rally. So
Tally Rally.
Oh my God.
I love it.
And that name was picked by Mike. I think maybe you met Mike, Scott.
I definitely met Mike. I wanted to talk about. I wonder where he is now.
Tally Rally 2022.
I love it.
This is the Tax Bandits ad. Tax Bandits is a modern, full-service tax filing platform. file 1099s, 941s, W-2s, 1095s. That's a lot of numbers. Plus many more additional forms with Tax Bandit's sleek, modern interface. With a few clicks of a button, you can upload your client's tax information directly into Tax Bandits, either with a direct integration with Xero, QuickBooks Online, or CSV.
We were printing 1099s. We were handwriting them on carbon copies. There was all kinds of 1099 nonsense happening at our firm. How about you guys?
We were doing that too. I mean, that was like 10 years ago. I think you were doing it like 2 years ago. But and there's plenty of people out there that are still printing 1099s. You need to stop doing that. You're wasting your staff's time. Why
would I switch to Tax Bandits?
Great question, Scott. A couple of reasons. First of all, they've got a huge team. So their support is in America. You call them and they pick up the phone. They have great support. So if you want training for your team, they'll do that. They'll migrate your data over. So if you're using Track or Tax99 or whatever you're using, they'll help you migrate the data over to Tax Bandits. They're super user-friendly and helpful.
So actually, I think we're getting to the kind of the heart of the matter here is customer service and client service. We talk about that a lot on our podcast. I think that is a huge drive for me to work with a partner these days, is to know that somebody is there. That might be a reason to switch over to Tax Bandits. So get started today by visiting taxbandits.com and firing your 1099 provider.
Bring your 1099 to the next level. Taxbandits.com.
I'm excited to check them out by visiting taxbandits.com.
That's the fun part of growing Tallyfor, is really building a great team that wants to automate tax. We have a good team of 4 or 5, and kind of looping them in and teaching them how to spell tax, right? You can't do it alone, as I said early on. You have to have a whole team that does it, and they have to be as excited as you are, as I am, and you as customers, potential customers, change agents. We have to infuse the tax world of like, hey, it can be done and it will be done, and do you want to be part of it? So that's where the excitement of building Tallyfor is.
They have to also be excited that their jobs are going to get better, not lost.
Yes.
Like some
yes.
rightfully are afraid
Absolutely
they're not going to have jobs, right? Like, so.
Oh, yeah. When I say automate, I say let the robots do the robot thing so you could be more human. You know, why are you doing robot-y things like typing?
There's so much of a value add for us as tax practitioners, and then for the client too, because accuracy, time, like there's so much more we can do to leverage what we're good at. We're not winning 10 key championships here, like just keying shit in like this. I don't know. There are 10 key championships, I think.
Where's my 10 key? Hold on.
They exist in my
I got a 10 key right here.
I heard you guys talking about the 10 key.
People don't realize, like, you still have to add some things every once in a while.
I like it.
Hold on, you can see the dust on mine.
I see that. I see some red in there. Is it
that's not a 10 key? That's not a 10 key.
I got a USB 10 key too.
This is oh God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I have a couple of those in my basement. I don't know what to do with them. And I used to love them as kids. My kids like them now too. They just like something printing on the paper.
I really never use that. Use Doodle Sheets if I need to add stuff.
I loved it. I would key up all when I do a tax return.
You just
I would staple the work papers together.
That's what you do.
No, I would add up everything, like add up all the withholding for the state, all the withholding for the federal.
I see if Alexa can do them all.
Staple it to my work papers. I miss my 10 key. I miss doing taxes that way.
Yeah. No, I'm all for automation. And I'm all for stuff. It would be great if the government, I mean, every other country, the government does the tax return for you, basically. I'm all for that.
Yeah, someone asked me a joke. They said, hey, what do you think the Martians or the aliens out there? You think they have a tax system? I was like,
oh, for sure.
That's a damn good question. I mean, what is taxes? Taxes is the collective. It's not the me, it's the we. So you're paying for the we. You know, if there's any kind of social system, there's probably going to be a tax, right?
So I was just watching Jon Stewart's new show on Apple TV, and they went pretty deep into that. You know, this episode was about the economy.
Do they know aliens exist?
No, they didn't talk about the aliens. They talked about the taxation. They just talked. Actually, I think they got into aliens at some point, or that was American Horror Story. I forget which one. And I don't know how this turned into that conversation, but
I think they call that moral hazard.
So, yeah. But aliens having tax. Oh wow, this has got me thinking real deep. I got to get a little high.
We only do U.S. tax returns here, so I can't do Martian tax returns.
we do resident alien. Yeah, we do resident alien returns.
Yeah, exactly. Only resident aliens. So, tell us what's the hardest thing about running Reconciled? Tallyfor.
Oh, you guys mix me up with Michael?
I know.
That was
now. What now? This is cancel culture right here. Yeah, he's getting canceled.
The hardest thing, it's long days. It's a lot. You have to do everything as a founder, marketing, DevOps. I do the DevOps, sales, everything. So they're literally very long days. But I just love I love changing the way people work. So it's very rewarding.
Okay, before we go, tell us, give everyone one.
Well, first, can you tell us who came up with the name? You're an Excel jockey. Is that you? Did you make that
Excel
one up?
Jockey. I did like.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I might title this episode "The Excel Jockey."
16-bit of Peter writing a horse on an Excel document as
I don't even know where that. Maybe it's not even the right word.
You could be riding Clippy since Clippy's been retired.
Clippy.
Big retired Clippy.
Don't break news on here, Scott.
Photoshop is now all in the browser.
No way.
Yeah.
Speaking of cloud.
Yeah. Right? I mean, if you can do Photoshop in the browser, you can do anything in the browser.
You can do anything in a browser. You can do text in a browser. You can do Excel.
Tell us how you got Tallyfor. What's the name?
Oh yeah. That's what I was really going to ask. I was going to lead me into that. Like I know we've talked about the branding, which I love because I think that's just a symbol for a lot of different things. I didn't even know it was a dragonfly at first. But yeah, tell us how you came up with the name.
We just brainstormed a couple of names, and tally means to count up stuff, obviously, and what are you telling it for? And the domain was available. The logo is people have interpreted different ways. It's intended to be a dragonfly, and the dragonfly is considered insect of transformation. So it's to transform the way you do taxes.
Are you opening something there? I hear like an unwrapping of something.
He's hungry, man.
Time. Well, that was my sticker packing.
Give accountants one piece of advice. If you give them one piece of advice, what would you give them?
Automate so you can get out of the office quicker.
Well, that speaks to priorities.
Okay.
Right? And do they want to be in the office? Do they prefer being at the office than going home?
Well, you can stay in the office if you want. Just do.
Well, Peter, it's been amazing.
I don't even have an office to go to. He didn't ask the future question.
I asked him what he thought where Tallyfor was going to be in 5 years. That's kind of the future.
That's why I wasn't gonna.
But
where do you think the industry will be in 5? I know where you said Tallyfor is. So speak on the industry then. 5 years.
I know I've heard that question on others, so I'm prepared for that one.
Good. Let's hear it.
I call it the profession, by the way. The profession. It'll be very much like today, but with better tools, incrementally changed. I do think the tech will come and people will adopt it at their paces. So it won't be too different from today. I think there will be some changes on the tech side, hopefully. Yeah, so that's it.
But maybe it'll be a little bit more uniform because on the book side, we've experienced a lot in tax.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years is interesting. If you think about 10 years since Xero entered the U.S., and you all know the generational change going on. Firms kind of, but that's been going on for a good 10 years already, and it's going to accelerate younger firms. I think the overall technology, if you look at the world, if you pace the accounting profession against the world, you can almost ask the question, are they innovating faster or slower? I would love for them to actually leapfrog. I think Tallyfor can leapfrog some of the other stuff.
Juana just brought me a coconut. Sorry.
What a great wife! Wow, a legit coconut.
Thank you.
Yvonne, where's my coconut? Shit.
He's drinking. For those of you who can't
I heard a knock on the door, and I got handed a coconut. This is great.
This is amazing.
Beauty of my day. I didn't even know we had this.
We still have a long way to go in accounting. There's still so many people that aren't on a cloud system in accounting. So we have a long way to go.
Yes, we do. So the more change agents, the better. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Listeners, listeners unite.
And I just have to give it. Tallyfor is a sponsor. They have paid us money. We thank that. But I have to say that if you're not using a Tallyfor product, there's others out there, but I think Tallyfor is the best. You need to use that. It saves you legitimately, from my perspective, at least, he said 3 hours. That might be a little much, but it saves you between 30 to 45 minutes a tax return. And that's a lot of time.
How about the downstream impact of not using that? What if you're hand keying stuff and the potential for error? So the time you're saving on the front end.
I'm not even talking that. I'm just saying,
but I'm more concerned about that. I don't even think we spend that much time, because we're skipping steps. We're skipping a lot of trial balance stuff that we should be doing, but we're trying to just bypass that because we don't want to spend the time. So what about the firms like us?
So you're going to save time and you're going to save mistakes. Like you said, if you're still typing stuff in, that's bad.
Well, if you're at a firm like Ackerman's and they don't track time, then it doesn't matter. You can spend all the time you want.
The interesting thing is it's not just the time. It's like, what do you do with that time, right? You say, now you can grow your firm, you can do other things, and you can actually change your model, right? Your tax, how you provide tax. We have some customers that are thinking about tax as a service, kind of, server service. So it's interesting now, because that's what the world is. It's like moving parts and joining up. So rather than worrying about errors, you can think about partnering, finding other tax professionals, things like that. It truly is a platform.
Peter, this has been amazing, and hopefully we'll see you in person soon at Tally Rally.
Yes. Actually, are you guys going to Digital CPA, things like that? What are the shows?
I will be at Digital CPA. I'll see you there.
I go to Engage. Yeah. That's the one I go to.
I actually don't have tickets, though. It's like I went to Engage. I didn't have a ticket. I'm going to Digital CPA. I don't have a ticket.
I might do the same. So let's.
Yeah, I'll see you there. Yeah, I enjoyed meeting you at Engage, Peter. You were one of the highlights of new people that I met. Yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
The best part before we go, the best part about Scott at ASCPA Engage was he took his room key and used it as, how you get like your lanyards with your name. He just put the room key on it and just walked in, and no one said anything.
It's a con. It's a confidence game.
It was amazing.
You just walk in like you own the place.
Scott's a baller.
Now I know how you roll, Scott. Now I know.
All right.
He's gonna get a sharp my name on it too, so people know who I am.
Hey, Jason, guys, it was awesome. It was good to catch up with y'all, and thanks for having me.
I hope it did a pretty good job this time being the co-host. I was the co-host today. Thank you, Peter.
All right, Peter. Take care.